Hello, everyone, and welcome to Heal a Sister. Heal a Sister is a show that aims to give hope and restoration to young women. My name is Amgalang Matlabi, and on today's topic, we are unpacking drugs and substance abuse. To help me do that is Eva Josiah, an international accredited alcohol and substance abuse professional. She's also a counselor and a teacher. Thank you for being here with us today, Ma Josiah.
Thank you, Amo, and let me welcome everybody to this episode.
Yeah.
Drugs and substances are a problem all over the world. And when we define them, there are psychoactive substances that affect the central nervous system, which is the CNS, and also they affect how people perceive the world around them, how people behave, some sensory distortions that they may see after taking those drugs. And also they affect the mood. Somebody may feel alert, they may feel calm, they affect the thoughts, somebody may have racing thoughts, or poor judgment.
Yeah.
They also affect sensory perception. Somebody may experience some distortions because they've taken those substances, and even the behavior.
Yeah.
Somebody may be aggressive or violent because of taking these drugs. And the global effects, the effects of taking these drugs and substances, you tend to find that you'll have increased road accidents, will have people committing suicide or with suicidal ideations. There will be violent behavior, for example, lost productivity, and also it affects their physical health. So you tend to find that they have HIV, for example, which is a co-occurring medical disorder. They'll have TB, they'll have hepatitis, they'll have tuberculosis. Yes.
I like that you just jumped right into it. The effects, the causes, and what happens next.
Yes.
We have to get in the important information out first.
Yes.
And before we move on to the next segment, I'd like for us to go at least back to why do people actually find themselves having to start using drugs? Where does it begin? You know, for especially young people, how do you find yourself using and abusing drugs?
Okay, thank you, Amo. There are different situations that people can find themselves in. For example, we have unemployed young people all over the world that they can have some stress, and which will then lead them to using drugs. Sometimes because of peer pressure from their friends. This usually happens in school-going children. We see them being pressured into using drugs. Sometimes because of social issues, maybe it could be divorce, it could be work-related stresses, so many things that can lead people into using drugs. But young people, we see a lot of them engaging in drugs because of the hype and the euphoria that comes with it. You know, as they maybe gather together, maybe during the weekends, you'll see them at parties, maybe vaping, taking alcohol, taking marijuana, which in turn will cause psychotic illnesses like schizophrenia, like mood disorders, eating disorders, and other mental health issues that comes with taking drugs.
Because they think that drugs or drug usage is cool.
Yes.
You know, you find yourself in a very awkward situation, or like you say, you find yourself at a party. Everyone is doing it. Why should I not try using it? Next thing you know, it's a problem. You know, So at these parties and at these different places or wherever they decide to use that drugs or whatever the reasons why someone decides to use drugs, what kind of drugs are these are they using, and to what extent does it become a problem?
Okay. There are categories or drugs have got classification. For example, we have the stimulants. The stimulants, they stimulate the central nervous system, and they cause high heartbeat, decrease or increased heartbeat and breathing. And the examples that we get from these, for example, we can find them in cocaine, we can find them in nicotine, we can find them in caffeine and even energy drinks, because they have a high caffeine content and they tend to stimulate the central nervous system. And then it comes with a surge of euphoric gratification with it, which will make somebody to want to be taking more and more of these drugs, because they produce this dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter. And when they are up high, they get the gratification for that, not knowing that that will lead to substance use disorder. And then we have got depressants. These depressants, they tend to decrease the activity of the central nervous system. And also they increase the heart rate and the breathing rate. And the examples that we get from this is alcohol. Alcohol is abused all over the world. And it is a depressant. People tend to be calm, and because of this pleasure that they derive from it, they become addicted. We also have got some prescribed medication, for example, like benzodiazepines, which are used for severe insomnia and anxiety. And these drugs, because they are prescribed by doctors, people tend to use them and abuse them because of the excitement that comes, or the depressed stage that comes with this. And then we have got opioids. Opioids or narcotics, or you can also call them painkillers. They are called opioids because they act on the opiate receptor of the brain. And this one, they tend to reduce pain. Most of them are painkillers. So the examples here will be heroin, will be morphine, will be pethidine, will be codeine. For example, pethidine is given to people with cancer to try and ease the pain. And then we've got another class which is called hallucinogens. And this one, they bring a vivid sensory distortions or hallucinations, and they alter the mood and thinking. What we see here is a drug called ecstasy, which is also used in clubs by young people. And then we have this drug that doesn't fall in either of these categories, which is marijuana or daga or cannabis, whatever people call it in their own countries. And this one can act as a depressant, it can act as a stimulant, it can act as a hallucinogen, or it can act as a narcotic or analgesic. So it takes different form to different people.
I'm concerned that's a long list. I'm concerned that is a very, very long list. For all I know, I just know heroin, marijuana. You know what? I realize I'm not well learned in that area. Thank you. Now, I think now the concern is that there's just so many drugs available. You say so many, and some of them are just available. They're prescription drugs. It's easy for them to get these drugs. The ones I already know of are hard drugs, where you have to find someone selling in the street, or you have to find a supplier who has another supplier to be able to get a dose. And now the other concern is that, how do I know that this person has a drug problem? I live with my younger brother, I live with my younger sister, whomever in my household. How do I now recognize that this person has a drug problem before it either becomes a serious problem or just at initial stages? How do I know, and how can I help this person?
Okay. With young people, one, their behavior changes. Their mood changes.
Excitement.
There's a lot of excitement, like we talk about the surge of euphoria. Their eating habits change. They tend to eat more or less, especially if they're taking marijuana. They are truant. They bunk school. They miss school. Their academic performance decline. They tend to be sneaky, and this because they buy these drugs. then there are economical implications because now they begin to ask for money from their parents, or they steal money, or they sell furniture, or they sell that and that from the home. Then that's when you'll notice there must be something wrong. Even their thinking, even their behavior, it changes because now that they're taking something that causes them to do what they're supposed to do, and it means now that this would lead to SUD, because you know how it starts. It can
What is
start,
SUD?
Okay, it can start by experimentation. They'll just experiment. This happens where there is a group of friends just trying to taste how is this drug, and then it also can be circumstantial, and then intensified use, and then compulsive use, when now this person is dependent on the drug. And then that's when you begin to see problems, because here we talk about withdrawal symptoms. You know, they cannot stay without using this drug. They need to feed their brains, because like I was saying, this dopamine that is produced in the brain keeps on wanting to be excited. It keeps on wanting to be excited, and therefore it's the addiction now is heightened. In young people, like I was saying, we see the problems in our schools, that a very intelligent student, even at university level, they will drop out of school because of that.
And the strange part is that they're probably engaging into drugs because they think they can do better at school.
Yeah.
But that's just a lie, right?
It's just a myth.
You know,
instead, their performance decline.
You overuse your prescription drugs. You think you'll get better, but really you're just hurting your body.
It doesn't. And that's a myth, and they believe that they will get clever, they will pass, but it doesn't work that way, because there is some distortions, like we said, in the brain. The sensory perception is distorted. So there is no way you can have sound judgment, because it's all about good judgment, and also your behavior must be at par with that of a normal person. But at the point in time when you have taken drugs, then you are not yourself.
Hold on to that thought, Miss Eva. We're going to go on a short break, and when we come back, we're going to get into the issues of how we can actually find help within our societies. We'll be back just now. Welcome back. This is Healer Sister. We're still discussing drugs and substance abuse. And before the break, we spoke about the types of drugs, the reasons why people find themselves involved in drugs, and how it looks like when someone has drugs. And now we're going to delve into how can someone find help, and how can you overcome addiction. Ms. Josiah, I think before we continue or start talking about how we can overcome drugs, I know that there's also something that you want to talk about, something that you've seen in the Bible. What does the Bible say about addiction?
Okay, thank you, Amo.
Yeah.
In the book of Romans 12, verse 1,
Yes.
I'll just paraphrase, but it says, I beseech you therefore, brethren, present your bodies as a living sacrifice. Do not conform to the things of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. The Bible tells us that we need to present our bodies as a living sacrifice. And if we are going to be taking drugs and substances, it means now that we are conforming to the things of this world. But here the Bible is telling us to be transformed. And transformation takes a mindset. It takes somebody to say, I am not. It takes somebody to be intentional, to take a conscientious decision to say, I don't belong here. I don't want to do this. I wish we could let Jesus transform us into beautiful women and ladies, beautiful gentlemen who are a drug-free generation. Because like we were saying, drugs are ravaging our country, and drugs are ravaging the world. And Jesus is coming very soon, and we need to be sound. We need a renewing of our mind.
minds.
And also, John 10:10 says, the thief come to steal, kill, and destroy. But I have come that you may have life and have it more abundantly. We have got limitless possibilities.
Yeah.
We have got abundant life that Jesus Christ has given us. Life that we can have limitless possibilities, and life that God has put before us or at our disposal to open doors for us.
Oh, mercy.
The thief, which is drugs, has come into our lives because we have allowed it. But if we have got Christ in us, then we will close that door. And we need to pray for our young people. And I always say the most important thing is to psychoeducate. If we psychoeducate and try to be preventative more than treating a substance use disorder, then you can go somewhere. You know, you were talking about young people having a party and enjoying themselves. But here we are saying you can still have fun with no drugs.
Yeah.
We can still have fun at Pathfinder, at anywhere, Yom, all these activities
At the churches,
without having drugs. So Christ is calling us to present our bodies as a living sacrifice, and that's what we should do. And also, in her book, Ellen White, in 1864 publication of Spiritual Gifts, Volume 4, calls us to have a meat-free diet. And also, she said we must refrain from intoxicating beverages, coffee, alcohol, tobacco, and so forth and so forth. And also, she says these are the main causes of a dying world today because they affect the body physically, they affect the mental health. And you can only imagine what kind of generation will be raising those that are affected by drugs, both physically and mentally. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's a mouthful. Now I'm just wondering, you talk about, what we can do as a society, what we can do to help curb this pandemic that faces us, or that we have not just in our church but also in the world. What kind of processes can you advise or give to someone, or do you think someone should go through for them to find healing?
Thank you, quitting drugs is a process.
Yeah.
Maintaining sobriety and recovery is a process. And like I was saying, one has to be intentional about it. One must be in a contemplation stage to say, I have a problem and I need to stop. And if one is still in the pre-contemplation stage, they're still in denial of an existing problem. And therefore, one has to say, I have a problem and I need help. And it requires the family to come together. It requires the significant other to be close by. It requires a whole support system to say there is a problem that we need to deal with. Because, for example, the family might require some sort of therapy because they also have been hurt along the way. They've been violated along the way. They've been abused along the way. So you can see that it's not only about this person who has got substance use disorder, but it's also about the people that they're staying with at work, in the social sphere, in the family, and in the society. And our parents tend to be enablers. They tend to maybe kind of hide this problem. And when you hide this problem, it means now that it's going to be very difficult to get an intervention. There are places, there is hope. Like I was saying, there is hope for drugs and substances. We have counselors, addiction professionals who we can go to seek help. We have got some rehabilitation centers depending on your location or depending on your country of origin. We have got psychiatrists. who have also done addiction. We have psychologists, we have clinical social workers that can assist us, or that can also take us through a treatment plan so that we get help. So there is help. But like I was saying, my emphasis is that we must psychoeducate so that these young people or somebody who is planning on using drugs or who want to experiment with drugs must know what they are getting themselves into.
Okay.
Yes.
I hear that you talk about the person needs to be ready to make that change.
Yes.
They need to be able to, want it for themselves.
Yes.
Are you saying now that you cannot drag someone into therapy? You cannot drag someone into helping them to overcome drug usage? Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
And also, when you talk about that, when you give that response, I'd also like to say that to someone who's watching, they have this problem, they've experienced it, but also, is there someone that is struggling with the stigma that they're using drugs and they cannot ask for help because perhaps it's the church? I'm not supposed to be using drugs, I know that, but if I come to the church, are they willing to help me? Yes.
Fortunately for our church at the General Conference, you know that every year during the month of May has been set aside as an awareness month for drugs and substances. And this is to say, our church realized that this is not only a societal issue, it's also a church issue.
Within our society.
Because in our church, we've got different professionals. We have the health ministry, which we can go and seek help for our young people. But we are talking about the stigma associated with it. And I also gave an example of an enabler, a family that because of shame and guilt are trying to hide this young girl, because usually the boys are the ones who come out.
That's another way to look at it.
But the girls, it's like they don't want to come out. And also as family members, we try to hide
this problem. It's embarrassing.
And conceal it.
Yes.
It's embarrassing.
People don't want people to know us about this problem.
Yes, there is guilt and shame and what will people think of me, you see? And therefore we delay this young person to get help. So we need to come out and say, I have help. But we need to be there, like I said, as family members. First as family members. Because if the family members do not accept that a problem exists, then it's going to be very difficult for the society to embrace this person living with drugs and substances.
So this is a reminder that this for the person that is using drugs, it doesn't make them a bad person.
No, it doesn't.
Or a weak person.
It doesn't make them a weak person. In fact, they are coming up. I mean, there are some people who are addicted to many other things apart from drugs, And if you meet a therapist, it will be done in a setup that is one-on-one, that is confidential, that is in a dignified manner. But sometimes people with substance use disorder don't know where to go. But there is help out there.
Okay. I can do all things through Christ.
Yeah.
Who gives me strength.
I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength.
Emma.
So there is hope.
There is hope.
There is hope in maintaining sobriety. There is hope in recovery.
I think that is great news. It's good to know that the church has done something.
Yeah.
And it's good that we have people who are equipped,
yes.
who are ready to help.
Yes.
I think more than just reaching out to the person that is struggling with the drug abuse, it's more for the person that knows they know someone with a drug problem, yes. and they have the ability to help that person. Yes.
Yes, and even in recovery, there can be relapses and lapses. Because when somebody has taken a step to say, now I have a problem, and I need to introspect. And for example, I've been unemployed, or maybe I've been expelled from school. Now I want to go back to school. We must be there for that person. Nobody is beyond salvage. We can all get help.
Now, besides what you've already said about the church's involvement, does there other resources that you think you can give to the general community of where they can find help?
Yes, like I said, in some other countries like South Africa, I know they have rehabilitation centers where you can go there and seek help. We have some private clinics where counseling is offered. We have got psychologists. We have psychiatrists in our clinics and hospital. Depending on your location, you can get help from the hospital. Because like we were saying, addiction is a mental health disorder.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a mental health issue. So because it's a disease that has got lapses and relapses, it needs to be managed. Either not only by counseling, maybe by pharmacotherapy, because this person now is experiencing withdrawal symptoms because they want to start, but the brain keeps telling them that you need to be taking this drug for you to be high, but you want to stop. So there are drugs that can be prescribed by a medical doctor or a psychiatrist to try and deal with the withdrawal symptoms.
So at any stage, you've spoken about other places other resources where people can find help, but we also have family. You've already mentioned family. We've got friends, we've got sisters, we have people next to us that we can reach out to when we need help. Right?
Yes.
And like you've also said, it's important to also repeat that people in our churches who are equipped, and not just churches, it's people living outside. This is a pandemic that is affecting us globally, and it's important for us to be able to know where we can find help. You know, even asking a friend might know where else to take you, right? So I think it's also important that we also pray for our friends. We guide our friends. You've spoken about being consistent. This person is going to need a lot of support because there's going to be relapses. Yes, this person is going to need someone to hold their hand and just be patient with them. Yes. Thank you so much for being with us, Ms. Eva Josiah, and for allowing God to use you in such a mighty way. I don't know if you've got some last words that you'd like to share with the young woman that is watching the show today. Perhaps they want to help someone, and perhaps they're also going through this problem. Just in 10 seconds.
Yes. Young people are just like to say there are limitless possibilities out there. It is not cool to do drugs. Let's learn, let's get psychoeducation so that we know what we are getting ourselves into, and pray without ceasing, because prayer changes everything. Thank you very much, Amo.
Thank you for joining us on this episode. Until we meet again next time. Bye-bye.